Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Believe in best.
Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight, a former prime minister throws his support behind the Elizabeth MP. PLP leader Philip Davis outlines the road to the future. Why doctors say drive-in rallies are still not considered safe. Plus, a teen sprinter on track to make waves. Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Jillian Gray. Topping news tonight, former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram is throwing his support behind Elizabeth MP Dwayne Sands, who he says he supports 100%. While Ingram has been absent for the most part on the campaign trail this season, he made a brief appearance on Saturday as Dr. Sands canvassed the Elizabeth constituency.
No question for that. I'm here today to support Dr. Dwayne Sands.
The former Prime Minister, who has been relatively quiet this campaign season, says he came out for this brief appearance because he believes in Dr. Sands.
He's a good man, and I think he deserves to be elected. He's had a similar experience I have, you know. I used to be a minister before. I got fired. I got elected to the House, and I became Prime Minister.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully he can have the same experience.
Sands is seeking re-election in the Elizabeth constituency and says he's grateful for the endorsement of someone who has done so much for the country.
And to have his support, his endorsement, to me is both humbling and it fills my heart. I want the people to know that Hubert Ingram was responsible for the creation of the community of Elizabeth. If you remember, he was the Minister of Housing that created, this was his pet project.
Elizabeth Estates.
And so we're looking at the past, you're now looking at the present, and hopefully this is still the future of Elizabeth. Let me be very clear, I am not a misogynist, but we can put a beating on Joe Beth.
Sands says he's committed to working hard and hopes to retain his seat. Now, former Prime Minister Ingram has been critical of Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis calling a snap election. Asked whether he would speak at a rally, Ingram said this.
I have not been asked to speak. If I am asked to speak, I'm not likely to say yes. I've had COVID. I have comorbidities. So does my wife. And I think that my health will keep me away from such activities. I take a risk today to come to my doctor to endorse him publicly.
We won't keep him
But generally speaking, no.
As cases have been increasing steadily, many have questioned whether an election can be held safely.
And that speaks for itself. There's nothing I can say that can explain that better than that reality. That in the middle of this pandemic, we are having an election.
So tell us why.
That speaks for itself.
The Progressive Liberal Party holding its first virtual rally last night. Party leaders clapped back at F&M candidates who they say have done only two things so far: talk about Philip Davis and implement bad policies.
This crew we have in there now, oh gosh, they just aren't up for the big jobs. They can't preside over change. They are tired. They're out of energy. And they are out of new ideas.
PLP supporters gathered around computer screens and televisions waving pom-poms, flags, and dressed in gold for the party's first ever virtual rally.
On election day, we ride the wave with brave sail. Let's go! PLP!
From slamming the government's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic to criticizing the FNM's lack of transparency, party leader Philip Davis said Minnis should focus more on the country and less on him.
Why hasn't he personally taken a team to our hospitals to find out what is most urgently needed? Why isn't he doing that instead of calling my name all day and all night? He can't keep brave name out his mouth.
Davis says the country is doing far worse than its Caribbean counterparts, adding emergency powers orders are not needed.
We are at the rock bottom in the rankings. It didn't have to be so bad. We need a common sense, science-based, compassionate approach. Vaccines are absolutely a critical weapon in this fight, but they are not the end of the story. We need free and widespread testing and support for those who test positive and need to isolate. And I know we are all tired of COVID, but we do need to continue public health measures such as masking and social distancing.
Deputy Leader Chester Cooper did not mince words either as he questioned how Dorian funds were spent and slammed the government for a laundry list of missteps.
The Minister administration has promised transparency, integrity, anti-corruption, freedom of information and accountability. But the Prime Minister himself will not account to the Bahamian people. Where is the missing Oban file? Where is the investigation into the dismantling of the board at BPL he promised? Where is the pandemic spending report that he is required by law to make public?
Cooper says the PLP has a plan to grow the economy, fight COVID-19, and stop suffering of the poor, which includes reducing VAT by 2.5%.
We're going to reduce the rate of VAT to 10%. We believe that this will not only help your pocketbooks directly, but spur those who have money to spend more, stimulating economic growth.
As political parties look to scale back in-person campaigning, the Consultant Physician Staff Association is warning drive-in rallies could have a devastating impact if they're not properly monitored. Berthany McDermott reports.
The Consultant Physician Staff Association is warning that drive-in rallies can still pose a health risk and is something healthcare providers are against. The Free National Movement has held a number of drive-in rallies here in the capital, on Grand Bahama, and on family islands like Eleuthera. The goal is for residents to remain in their cars and prevent mixing, which can result in spreading the virus. However, party supporters were seen walking about and mingling at the political events. CPSA President Dr. Sabrika Pinder-Butler says unless the rallies are being properly policed, they can have negative effects.
It can pose a risk because we know that, despite best efforts to make sure that persons remain in their cars and to make sure that, the social distancing occurs, unless we have people properly policing those activities. And I think we've seen various things on social media where persons were not staying in their cars, persons were still very much close to each other and congregating.
Pinder-Butler called election activities distasteful given the current state of the healthcare system.
To have, this happen right now, which could potentially worsen our situation in the country, is certainly not something that healthcare providers are welcoming. We are very, very deeply troubled and concerned.
However, Health Minister Renwood Wells appears to have a different view. Speaking on the sidelines of one of the FNM's drive-in rallies, Wells said he doesn't think the events will have a negative impact on COVID-19 numbers.
Well, I believe as long as we keep doing what we intend to do in regards to vaccinations, we're going to end up in a good place should the Bahamian people and all of us continue to adhere to the protocols. If you see, I'm standing here with my beautiful little young daughter, Soraya, and it's just us. And so, as you could see, folks are just standing in the groupings where they have family members. You could see folks are sitting on their vehicles, and everybody is sort of staying socially distant. As long as we can maintain that kind of understanding, I believe that we're going to be well.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Bahama's Power and Light is sticking to its year's end date to have its rate reduction bond completed. Through the bond, the company is seeking to raise $535 million, $300 million of which will be used to pay off legacy debt. Chairman Donovan Moxey says BPL has completed all the required legislative amendments.
We're waiting for the next seating of Parliament, and hopefully that gets on the agenda very quickly. And when that does, we can move that through. So we've done everything that's needed. The book runners are in place. The potential investors are aware of the deal. All of the other professional service providers are available. And so as soon as the government makes a decision to move that process forward through Parliament and make the amendments, then from our perspective, we should be able to close the bond relatively quickly. So our goal is still right now to get that bond closed before the end of this calendar year.
BPL is also aiming to get the negotiations with Shell North America completed as soon as possible. At last report, the deal was in its final stages and set to be presented to Cabinet. Moxey says BPL is working through the process and is not sure when a final decision will be made. When asked if the election played a role in holding up the deal, the chairman said this.
I'm not going to say that. All I know is that there are other stakeholders that are responsible for being a part of the decision-making process. And so for us, we're just working through the process step by step.
Progressive Liberal Party Deputy Leader Chester Cooper is promising a Davis-led administration will dig into the finances surrounding Hurricane Dorian recovery efforts. Cooper says not only will they investigate the spending, they will also release their findings to the public.
We have committed in our blueprint to ensure that we have the type of reviews and assessments being done in relation to the spending for Dorian and of course the spending for the pandemic. So we are committed to conducting those reviews early in our term in office.
Cooper says a major issue is the unaudited finances of the Disaster Recovery Authority.
I think this goes to the heart of transparency and accountability. We want to ensure that the government outline for the Bahamian people the details of all of its efforts. We want a full understanding as to what we received from donors, how those donations were spent. We want the spending of the DRA to be audited because my recollection of that report is there was some spending that was not approved or budgeted for. We need an explanation to this clearly.
The DRA report tabled in the House of Assembly in March provided unaudited financials. Section 11 of the Disaster Reconstruction Authority Act states that 3 months after the end of each financial year, the authority shall submit to the minister a copy of its audited accounts together with a copy of any report made by the auditor. The DRA was formed in December. Still to come on our News, what NIB official says teens and elderly residents should know, and why some candidates say the two-party political system is done. That's coming up when our News returns.
The Great True True Bahamian Treasure Hunt is here, where you can win great vacation prize packages to hotels throughout the Bahamas. Watch Our TV on weeknights between 6 and 11 p.m. for your 10 True True Bahamian clues. Take note of your answers and clues. You never know, you might see the same clue twice. Follow Our TV Originals on Facebook to submit your correct answers before 11 a.m. every Saturday. Watch Our News Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. to see if you are the weekly winner. If you didn't win, watch for clues next week because the contest runs all summer long. Go to Our TV Originals Facebook page for more information and contest details.
You're watching Our News. Welcome back. Teenagers and soon-to-be seniors may see changes to their status with the National Insurance Board. Changes NIB registration manager Lolita Bodie says are triggered when they hit a certain age.
Cards for children expires on the child's 16th birthday. At that time, that child will come into NIB to have his photograph and signature captured. At the age of 60, for persons turning 60 in a few months or in a few years, your card expiration date will show your birthday. And at that time, you'll come into National Insurance and we'll give you a gift with your National Insurance card and it'll have senior on it. So you'll have a replica, senior, and a senior card, and that card is for life. So we do have expiration dates for children up to age 16 and for seniors up to age 60.
Bodie says some NIB card holders are still using their yellow NIB cards. She says all of those yellow cards have expired and will eventually have to be updated. Although right now all expired NIB smart cards are considered valid.
We have a few. We have quite a number of persons still out there with a yellow card because for whatever reason they thought it not necessary to come into National Insurance and to update. And so to update, for those persons who still have their yellow cards, to update, to receive your smart card, we will need your passport and a completed National Insurance form or your voter's card.
But the yellow card can still be valid?
The yellow card actually is not valid.
Two third-party candidates for West Grand, Bahama and Bimini are predicting the two-party system is over and that they have a shot at being elected to Parliament. Jared Higgs has that.
What you see standing right here in the front of you represents true change. In Grand Bahama, how long have we been neglected?
Third-party candidates in West Grand, Bahama and Bimini urging voters to give them a chance on Election Day.
It is about time where we get representative who actually cares about their citizens.
Daquan Swain is an independent candidate for West Grand Bahama and Bimini. The Grand Bahama native says his campaign is organic and represents the appetite for something different in politics on Grand Bahama.
Everybody you see here represents a true level of change. So this campaign is solely based around being the change that you want to see. So that's what I represent.
West Grand Bahama has 9 candidates vying to be the Member of Parliament this go around. The FNM's Pakeisha Parker Edgecombe and the PLP's Obi Wilchcombe represent the 2 major parties. But DNA candidate Mario Mott Jr. wants voters to consider something different. The Jonestown native and former teacher at Martintown Primary School also believes that voters want change.
I feel confident. I feel confident because I know within my heart, and I walk these communities. I grew up in this community, and I know we are tired, and we're looking for change. That is why I offer myself.
Mott is active in the West Grand Bahama community. He's president of the area's youth association and gentlemen's club. He's also heavily involved in baseball on the island.
This two-party system have to come to an end. They have failed us for more than 30 years. More than 30 years they have failed us. You have served. And when you serve and you have nothing to show for it, you can't come right now again and tell me what you're going to do. You have to tell me what you have already done. You've served me. And both of those two parties have failed us.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Our News caught up with Yamakra Member of Parliament Ellsworth Johnson on the campaign trail shortly after he nominated in his constituency. He said although there has been lots of fanfare and celebrating as the country races to the next general election, COVID is still very real and case numbers are still high.
Listen, I had COVID. We're stressing with our team to follow all of the protocols. I want to say to persons on the advice of your doctor, take the jab.
Johnson says the vaccine may be the way to the other side of the pandemic. Just as the country had to adapt to respond to the crisis, so did campaigners, and so must residents.
They said that my symptoms were mild. If they were mild, I would like to see the severe. Take the jab and do what is necessary. Listen, this is a fundamental part of what we're going through. All of the experts are saying that this will be with us for the next 2-3 years. We have to live with it. This is the new normal. And so industry still has to go. We still have to invest. We still have to train our children in a digitized way.
When Our News comes back from the break, how you can be your brother's keeper. Plus a young sprinter takes off. Our Jared Higgs has this story when Our News returns.
The great True Bahamian treasure hunt is here, where you can win great vacation prize packages to hotels throughout the Bahamas. Watch Our TV on weeknights between 6 and 11 p.m. for your 10 True Bahamian clues. Take note of your answers and clues. You never know, you might see the same clue twice. Follow Our TV Originals on Facebook to submit your correct answers before 11 a.m. every Saturday. Watch Our News Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. to see if you are the weekly winner. If you didn't win, watch for clues next week because the contest runs all summer long. Go to Our TV Originals Facebook page for more information and contest details.
Welcome back. You're watching Our News. A community-minded organization has struggled to help people during the pandemic as donations have been slow. Director of Families of All Murder Victims Candy Gibson says the group was founded to help the children of murder victims, but has evolved to helping whoever it can.
Lately, the person still being evicted from their home. Now, like I tell persons, ain't nothing I can do basically about that because the agreement you sign is between you and your landlord, and then do bear in mind your landlord, like myself, don't have it easy either because we have commitments with the bank. And so when you can't pay your rent, we can't pay our full share of the mortgage, the bank can't any with us. So basically, it's so hard for us now to really be lenient towards our tenants, so that's the issue right there.
Gibson recently received a donation from Caribbean Gas Storage and Terminal that will assist with the group's work. She's asking for people to have sympathy for the children left behind by parents who were killed.
Do bear in mind now, with our main plight, which is murder victim kids, the kids are innocent. They didn't ask to come here. And I know some of that, you might say, oh, well, some of their parents deserve to get killed. Okay, that's their parents, but the children are still innocent, and no child should have to go to bed hungry or less an item to help with their stability and help with their growth because their parents were murdered. So we ask a person, please allow God to touch their heart and sow into the ministry, if just only for the kids.
A top junior sprinter has his sights set on the #1 world ranking in the under-18 category, as he currently sits at #4. Jared Higgs tells us the young athlete is dominating other top youth athletes who are a year older.
Carlos Brown is at the top of global junior sprinting, and his talent was obvious when he was a primary school student.
After the race, he's like, yo, who's your mom? Say, I need to meet your mom.
The St. John's College student is #4 in the world in the 200 meters at the under-18 level with a time of 20.99 seconds. The three competitors ahead of him, all at least a year older than the sprinter who was born in 2005. He's also #8 in the world in the 100 meters with a time of 10.48 seconds. He almost finds it amusing when I ask him about his BAISS success.
I won many gold medals. I'm a 3-year BAISS champion in the 100 and the 200.
Coaches discovered Carlos's talent at a young age, and he's been training hard ever since. But with the pandemic canceling consecutive Carifta games, he was discouraged.
When they canceled it, that really hurt me. I was like, yo, this is my chance to win a gold medal. And then last year, it was another opportunity to win a gold medal. And I was angry, to be honest. It really hit me.
But Carlos had a strong summer, recording personal bests several times. He set his highest marks over in Nairobi, Kenya, competing at the World Athletics U20 Championships. Again, competing in the field with athletes born in 2002 and 2003, Carlos stood out.
I really got a chance to experience the World Athletics on the bigger stage, which is actually more competitive than Carifta. So that's a great experience.
Carlos says he understands the importance of balancing schoolwork and his athletic dreams. As a matter of fact, he says school comes first. He also understands the importance of a proper diet.
A regular diet, eat a lot of boiled food and stuff like that. I don't drink soda, stuff like that, just water. Probably, maybe like Kool-Aid once in a while, but I don't really fool with stuff like that.
Carlos's dream is to be a pilot. He wants to fly an Airbus and travel the world. He's starting to realize now that track and field may afford him those opportunities.
I see a future, to be honest. I really want to go pro. I mean, I'll go college to get my degrees and stuff like that, master's degree, and then probably go further, go off from there.
With all the success and potential, there's a tragic element to this story.
I lost my dad in April, so everything that I do now is for him. I want to make him proud, and I know he's up there smiling at me right now, so yeah.
He says his goal next season is to be the #1 U18 in the world. Given his success at such a young age, the possibility appears very real. Reporting for Our News Weekend, I'm Jared Higgs.
Ahead on Our News, the top quotes making news this week. Will your favorite make it? Stay tuned.
Every new season of On the Record, we push the limits. Venture into unknown territory. We take our cameras into places unseen before. We share the stories and experiences that affect us all. And now it's time for Season 5. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on RTV Cable Channel 212 and streaming live on Facebook on the Our News Bahamas page.
Welcome back to Our News. We now take a look at our quotes of the week. Quote 1 comes from Water and Sewage Executive Chairman Adrian Gibson, who is responding to allegations of misconduct. Gibson says he's the subject of a smear campaign.
You've seen some things this week. This is silly season, political season. You will see all kinds of foolishness. This is a season of lies, half-truths, innuendos, doctored documents and fabrications. Long Islanders, as you can see, I have become the subject of a well-organized, call it a mafia-like smear campaign.
Our second quote of the week comes from a political candidate who declared just $60 on nomination day. Kareem Hanchel says he's proud of the work he's done.
I can't be in Parliament. What $60 got to do with anything other than I don't owe nobody nothing? Since you laughing at the $60, who I earn, stick in a jick-in grind every day and get to be on my hands and knees, and he ain't got to ask nobody for nothing.
And finally, our last quote goes to a disabled Dorian survivor who wants help rebuilding his home. Ahead of the Dorian anniversary, he reflected on the horrors of the storm.
11 pork chop. Take them, put them inside the Tupperware bowl. When I put them in the Tupperware bowl, I only take one out and take a bite off of one. And this side of my house over here, on the corner, it lift up. Where was my bedroom. Yeah. Time as I get in there, and I just push the door to, the whole roof lift. Then it lift, I say, oh Lord Jesus, help me.
If your favorite quote this week didn't make it, drop us a line at Our News Bahamas on Facebook. Thank you for joining us for Our News Tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Jillian Gray. Do have a wonderful evening.